Hello everyone, I am going to talk about routes of drug administration. The cell membrane is composed of bilipid layer embedded with different types of proteins which either act as receptors or channels. Before a drugs act on the body, it has to enter into the site of the action. So, for that to occur, a drug must be transported from the outside the cell to inside the cell towards the extracellular fluid, that is blood, and from the blood to the site of the action. So, two main processes that carry the drug from its site of administration towards the site of action are passive transport and active transport. Passive transport mainly occurs by paracellular transport, diffusion and facilitated diffusion, while active transport occurs by primary or secondary transport. The paracellular transport occurs between the space of two cells, which mainly occurs in the capillaries, wherein the space between two cells is wide enough for water soluble substances to enter from one side of the cells to the other side. The diffusion occurs through and through the bilipid layer of cell membrane, so that a lipid soluble drug can be transported from one side of cell membrane to the other side, while facilitated diffusion occurs with water soluble substances that freely enter into the cell by solute transporters, wherein water along with the water soluble substances are transported from one part to the another. So all these transport systems are passive because no energy for it is required. In the primary transport, there is transport of ions from one part of cell membrane to another with the help of energy in the form of ATP. So these are known as ABC transporters, that is ATP binding cassette transporters. Here active energy is required for transport of a substance from one part to the other. The secondary transport occurs in the same way, but the substance that is passively transported along with the substance that is actively transported is known to or called to have been secondarily transported. So this secondary transport can occur like with glucose that is secondarily transported along with sodium, or vice versa. So absorption of drug has to occur through these mechanisms, wherein a drug can be transported across membranes, that is passive diffusion, filtration. Endocytosis occurs when the cell itself engulfs a substance, which is not true for drugs but other substances like bacteria which are engulfed by the cell, or and then there is ion pairing, uh, which can be seen with secondary transport, and then we have active transport. Coming to the route of drug administrations, there are two main classes of routes, that is systemic and local. What we mean by systemic is that from wherever the drug is applied, it goes into the blood, so that it is available for all the body to be utilized. While the local route means that the drug is only going to deposit at the site of action and it won't be going into the blood. So this is the main difference between systemic and local. In systemic, the drug goes into the blood so that it is available systemically, while in local it remains at the site where it is applied. The systemic route is again classified into parenteral and enteral. Enteral meaning oral or related to the gastrointestinal tract, and parenteral meaning other than the gastrointestinal tract. The local route is again divided into topical, arterial and deeper tissues. By topical we mean the drug is applied on the skin or mucous membrane. By arterial we mean it is injected directly into an artery so that the drug is transported to the site where the blood supply of artery belongs. By deeper tissues we mean uh, uh, injections into the joints wherein the drug goes directly into the synovial fluid between in the joints so that it is not going to be absorbed systemically. Coming to the topical route of administration, so here the drug is applied at the site of action without systemic absorption. The advantage that we have with topical route is that it is very convenient to apply a drug at the site of action. Say for example, there is pain in knee and a balm is applied over the knee directly, then it is it can be administered by a person himself so that there is no assistance required and less systemic adverse effect. Because the drug is being applied to a particular part of the body, it is not the drug is not going to harm the other parts of the body, it is not going to reach to those parts. So these are the main advantages of topical route. For example, we have eye drops, like we give eye drops for conjunctivitis, for glaucoma, and then we have antiseptics which are applied topically before surgery or before giving any injections. We have nasal route by which vaccines are given, or we can also give drugs for nasal stuffiness in cold. We can also give a drug through GI tract which will which will act locally. So say for example, sucralfate is a drug which is given for peptic ulcer, and here sucralfate is not absorbed systemically, it just acts on the ulcer. It forms a paste over the ulcer so that the acid that is secreted from stomach will not come in contact with the ulcer and give heartburn. So this is how this drug, while being given by oral route, acts locally, and so it comes under topical route. We can also give a drug by inhalational route, and it can be a topical route when it is given for, say for example, asthma, where salbutamol is given, and once inhaled, this drug will act only on the lungs to to give relief from breathlessness. But there is also this inhalational route can also be systemic, wherein general anesthesia is given. The gaseous form of general anesthetics are given by inhalational route, and they enter into the blood from the lungs and then to the brain to cause unconsciousness. So in this way, inhalational route can be topical as well as systemic, depending upon whether the drug is being acting only on lungs or it is going beyond the lungs. The example of topical uh, formulations are those that are applied on skin, like we have oils, ointments, powders, balms. We can also have a drug that is applied on skin but it acts systemically by entering into the circulation. So lipid soluble drugs, they can transport through and through by passive diffusion and act on the sites that are far from the skin. So in this way, there are drugs which can be given by uh, by applying on the skin, but they can act systemically. In this way, this can be a systemic route as well. So remember, it all depends upon the properties of the drugs, whether they are going to remain into the where it is applied and whether they are going to be absorbed into the blood. Another example of local route is intra-articular injections, wherein drug is injected into the synovial space and it acts locally. And then there is injecting a drug into the artery so that it reaches to the organ which is supplied by that artery and it remains locally. Say for example, there is a tumor that has to be uh, the tumor cells that have to be killed. So the artery that supplies that tumor is injected with the drug, say for example alcohol, and it will kill those specific tissues only. Coming to systemic routes, so whenever a drug is given by systemic route, it has to enter into the blood and go to all parts of the body, that is systemically. So these are again divided into enteral, that is related to the GI tract, and parenteral, that is other than the GI tract. Many examples, there are many examples of the systemic route. Coming to enteral route, so we can give a drug through the GI tract and which can be absorbed systemically. Examples are oral, that is the drug is ingested by oral, by mouth. Then sublingual, that is the drug is put under the tongue. And then we have the rectal route, that is the drug is put into the rectum. Coming to oral route, the different formulations that we can have for oral administration are capsules, tablets, syrups, elixirs, and these formulations are given for ingestion. So what happens when a drug is given by oral route? Whatever is ingested goes into the esophagus, and then this drug can be acted upon by different enzyme systems in the body so that it might be metabolized, and some part may be lost, while the remaining part is it enters into the venous system, that is the portal venous system, and then it goes towards the liver. It is metabolized so that again some part of the drug is lost. Now whatever drug is unmetabolized, that enters into the blood and is now available for systemic action. So all in all, when a drug is given by oral route, it takes time for entry into the systemic circulation, and also a bulk of it is lost by metabolism and different reactions that occur in stomach as well as liver. So what advantage do we have for oral route? It is convenient. A person can take it by on his own, and it has no pain compared to injectables. The drug is absorbed through whole length of the GI tract, so that uh, we can ensure that most of the drug is being absorbed. And oral route is obviously cheaper because no disinfection is required, and uh, the other accessories like syringes and needles are not required. There are many disadvantages with oral route. First of all, the drug has to first get absorbed and then metabolized, and whatever remains goes into the systemic circulation to act on the site of action. So the major part of the drug may be lost during this process. Second, it is slower acting as compared to the injectable routes, because it has to be first absorbed and metabolized before acting on the site of action. There might be erratic absorption of some drugs, which might lead to uh, undesired response. Oral route is again not favorable for emergency conditions where we require instantaneous action. Nausea and vomiting are common with oral route, and the drugs which are unpleasant to taste will show these kinds of uh, problems of nausea and vomiting. Oral route is not favorable in patients who are unconscious because it requires coordination of a person to ingest the drug. Uncooperative persons or kids will not be able to do this kind of coordination of ingestion, so again it is not possible in them. And patients who are vomiting will not be able to take a drug by oral route because as soon as they ingest it, it will be vomited out. Then we have sublingual, or we can also call it as buccal route, wherein the drug is kept under the tongue or under the buccal mucosa. Drugs which are lipid soluble and non-irritating easily are transported from the mucous membrane towards the sublingual vessels, and these vessels carry the drug directly into the systemic circulation. So that is why there are some advantages as compared to the oral route of drug administration, that is they are rapidly absorbed because the first pass effect is bypassed and the drug action can be terminated by just spitting out the drug so that the continuous absorption of the drug can be halted. The disadvantage is that the sublingual route is inconvenient because it has to be kept under the tongue. Then only smaller dosages can be given, larger dosages cannot be given. Say for example, a large amount of drug can be ingested, but for it to keep under the tongue is difficult. Then unpleasant taste of some taste will discourage the sublingual route for application. The example that we have is the glyceryl trinitrate, which is given for angina. When a drug is given by rectal route, the drug is inserted into the rectum. This type of route of administration can be applied in unconscious patients or patients who are vomiting or in children who cannot ingest the drug. Absorption through rectal route is variable and it might be inconvenient or embarrassing for a person to take a drug by rectal route. Unpleasant and irritating drugs can be given by this route. For example, paracetamol is given by rectal route in children, febrile children, or we can give diazepam in children who are having febrile convulsions. So coming to the other type of systemic route, that is parenteral route. Here the administration by injection occurs wherein the drug enters directly into tissues or blood without crossing the enteral mucosa. So there is no intestine to play a part and drug is directly inserted into tissues. So it can be again divided into intravascular, that is intravenous, or intraarterial, depending upon whether the drug is inserted into the vein or artery respectively. It can be injected into muscles and called as intramuscular, or it can be inserted into the subcutaneous tissues. There are also other types of routes which are classified under parenteral routes. So in the figure we can see that the first one, that is intramuscular. In intramuscular, the needle is 90 degrees to the surface of the skin and it is inserted through and through to enter into the muscles. In case of subcutaneous tissues, we have a angle of around 45 degrees and the needle is inserted into the subcutaneous tissues, which is mainly composed of fat. Then we have intravenous route wherein the angle of needle against the skin is around 5%, 5 to 15 degrees, and the needle is directly inserted into vein. So the advantage of intravenous route is that there will be an immediate onset of action, because as compared to the parenteral route, the drug directly enters into the systemic circulation. Again, absorption phase is bypassed, so there will be immediate action. There is no GI irritation and vomiting that occurs with the oral route if the drug is unpleasant to taste. Then unconscious, uncooperative or vomiting patients can be administered with a drug by intravenous route. Once the needle enters into the vein, the drug itself, if it is irritant in nature, still has no pain, because the intima of the vein is insensitive to pain. And again, the blood in the vein dilutes the drug so that the pain is minimized. Also, large quantity of drug can be given by this route, and titration of drug is possible. Depending upon the response that we get, we can increase or decrease the rate of administration of a drug. The disadvantages of intravenous route are that the drugs are costly, because these drugs are to be sterilized and packaged in specialized form. And again, while giving these drugs, sterilization of the part where it has to be injected is required. Assistance is required, because giving an intravenous injection is a skillful job. Again, being injected, the needle has to be pierced through the skin, which is an invasive process and painful as well. The local injury can occur, which can lead to thrombophlebitis, that is inflammation of vein in which drug is given, which is more common when the drug is irritant. And the aqueous solutions can only be injected by intravenous route. Lipid soluble drugs are not given by intravenous route. Coming to intramuscular route, it is also next to intravenous route, it is the most rapid route by which drugs can be absorbed. Muscles being very rich in blood supply, the absorption is faster. Drugs can be given, the lipid soluble drugs can be given as well, and which can act as a repository and can be released slowly into the circulation. The problems with intramuscular route are pain and hematoma at the site of injection can occur. This occurs because the blood vessels that are ruptured during intramuscular injection bleed, and the hematoma can form. Coming to subcutaneous routes, drug is injected through subcutaneous route, wherein it is deposited into the fat that is present in subcutaneous tissue. Because the blood supply to fat tissue or subcutaneous tissue is scarce, the absorption of the drug will be slow, but it will be constant. Concurrent administration of a vasoconstrictor can slow down the absorption as well, which is the principle of giving adrenaline along with the local anesthetics while giving local anesthesia, say for example for suturing skin. The advantage with subcutaneous tissue is that it can be self administered. In, say for example, in diabetic patients, the insulin can be self administered by the patient. Coming to intradermal route, in intradermal route, the injection is, the needle is inserted just under the epidermis, so that a bleb is formed when a small amount of drug is administered. So this route is generally preferred for BCG vaccination and for uh, drug sensitivity testing, looking for allergy of a drug to a person. So question comes into our mind is that by which route should a drug be given? There are different factors which will decide whether drug has to be given orally, by injection, or by rectally, sublingually, or other routes of drug administration. So these factors are the first of all properties of the drug. Solubility: if a drug is lipid soluble, it might well be applied upon the skin and absorbed systemically. If it is water soluble, it can be given by IV route. Then depending upon the stability of a drug, the state of the drug, whether it is solid, liquid, or gaseous. The gaseous form of drugs are given by inhalational and it cannot be given by any other route. Then depending upon the pH and whether the drug is irritant or not. If a drug is irritant, it is preferred by IV route and not by oral route. Then depending upon the site of desired action, the route can be selected. Say for example, if the site of action is the brain, the drug has to enter into the systemic circulation. But if the site of action is a joint, a painful joint, then we can also use the drug by local route. Then a rate of absorption via different routes. If we know that when a drug is given by oral route, the absorption is very rapid and it is not metabolized, we may as well exclude the parenteral route and give it by oral route. But if a drug is having a very high first pass metabolism, that majority of the drug is being metabolized into the liver and no part of it is entering into the systemic circulation, we might as well give the drug by parenteral route. Drugs which are having when there is an urgency of the drug to act immediately, the drug has to be given by parenteral route instead of the enteral route or topical route. Then accuracy of dose required. If we want an accurate dose of drug to be given, we should always opt for the parenteral route rather than giving it by enteral route. Then depending upon the condition of the patient, if the patient is unconscious, uncooperative, or cannot coordinate ingestion of a drug, we have to opt for some other routes of drug administration. So in this way, depending upon the properties of the drug and the condition of the patients, we can opt for a route of drug administration. So the take home message is that no single method of drug administration is ideal for all drugs in all circumstances. Thank you.